Raptor fans, Teresa here with the Montana Raptor Conservation Center in Bozeman, Montana. Since we are not able to do our summer education series currently, we are going to film another video of one of the programs that we would typically be doing. Today we are going to talk about an amazing group of raptors called falcons. We're going to start off with our impressive, very large falcon. This here is Lily, and she is a gyrfalcon, which is the largest species of falcon in the world. As you can tell, she's a very large, impressive, and beautiful huntress. Now she has those really big eyes that you can typically see on most raptors, but they're very large comparatively to the size of her skull. She has a hooked upper beak like most raptors and very strong feet with sharp talons. But as a falcon, she has other characteristics about her that make her a little bit different and a very specialized type of hunters. Most falcons are bird hunting birds and bird eating birds, so they are built for speed. Now, being such a large falcon species, she's a little bit more bulky. She's not going to do a lot of the high dives down to get her prey as other falcon species might, but she will dive to get rock ptarmigan, which is one of their main prey items that they will eat. They're often found up in the Arctic and in Canada. If we do see them here in Montana, it is pretty rare, and it's usually in the winter time when the younger ones will migrate down south a little bit. Oftentimes in the northern US or in Montana, you will see more of the gray color morphs. Lily, of course, is a white color morph, and there are also brown colors as well. Now, Lily has a pretty white belly, but she also has a beautiful barred back and tail, which is going to help her with camouflage. Even though she is a very impressive and powerful predator, she will have other predators that might be interested in hunting her if she was too visible. Now, sometimes they will hunt the rock ptarmigan on the wing, but they'll also catch small to large mammals on the ground as well. Gyrfalcons are often found hugging the contours of the ground as they chase their prey, and they will use trees and rocks to hide behind as well if they're trying to sneak up on their prey. These birds are also often seen perching on the ground, so they're not often found up in trees, and they will nest on cliff edges as well as the ground. So her camouflage on her back is going to be extremely important. If she were to catch a rock ptarmigan and not be able to fly off with it, sitting in an open field where they're often found hunting could be a little bit too obvious for predators like maybe an eagle flying overhead. So a lot of times they will try to drag their prey into a nearby bush in order to eat it and not be seen by other predators. During the breeding season, they will often eat up to 150 to 200 rock ptarmigans during courtship and also to feed their babies. They often will actually cache their prey if they have a surplus of food and their babies are done eating. They'll store it nearby their nest, and then later they'll go and pick it up, and if it's frozen, which often it will be up in the Arctic, they'll actually chip off little pieces of food to feed to their babies. Lily is often a pretty chatty bird, and here at the end of the video we'll see if maybe she'll talk a little bit for us, but she definitely has a very loud alarm call. So whenever there's another red tail or a bald eagle or other falcon in the area that she can see from her enclosure, she will give a very loud alarm call and alert all of the other education ambassadors to the presence of that predator. So she definitely is extremely alert. She has amazingly keen eyesight, which is very important for finding her prey. She does have a little bit of an orbital ridge sticking up over her eyes, which you might see kind of helping to shadow her eyes from the very, very bright sun that we are lucky to have right now. But she also has some dark feathers underneath her eyes, which will help to absorb some of the sunlight, and you'll see that definitely much more dramatically in our other falcon species that we'll be talking about today. And that's going to help absorb some of that sunlight so that it doesn't reflect back into her eyes. Now, falcons oftentimes aren't going to use their feet to crush their prey, while Lily here has very strong feet, not typically quite as strong as other raptors like a red-tailed hawk or a great horned owl. Her long toes with talons are actually going to be really helpful for her to grip onto her prey a little bit more easily rather than crushing her prey. Instead, she's often going to use her beak to kill her prey. Falcons have a notch on both sides of their beak called the tomial notch or the tomial tooth, and that's going to help them sever their prey's spinal cord very rapidly and effortlessly to end her prey's suffering, and also it's going to help her to kill her prey, especially if she's eating it on the fly. Now we actually are lucky enough to have Lily. We've only had her for a couple years and she's 17 years old. She's a retired falconry bird. So she's a bird that was bred in captivity and was meant to hunt with falconers, and she's a very impressive hunter and powerful hunter. And now that she's older, she's retired and now is an amazing education bird. We were so excited to have her. She's been such a dream to work with. If anybody has any questions about Lily, please feel free to put those in the comments below. All right, here is Millie, and I'll give you all a little bit to look at her, and maybe that will help you kind of decide what type of falcon she is. If you haven't guessed it already, she is a peregrine falcon. A really good way to tell you're looking at a peregrine falcon is that kind of hood coloration that she has. She has a very dark, almost helmet, and then you can see those very dark stripes that she has underneath her eyes. Those are going to be extremely helpful for her if she's flying in high speeds and the sun happens to get in her eyes. You can see that her orbital ridge is not as big as Lily's or hawks or eagles, so that black underneath her eyes absorbing the sunlight is going to be extremely helpful for her when she's flying. And ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at the fastest animal in the world. This type of raptor will fly up very high in the sky, and they'll tuck in their wings and they'll go down in a steep dive called a stoop, where they're basically bullet shaped. And this is where they let gravity help them out, and they can reach at speeds over 200 miles an hour. These birds are insanely fast, and they are definitely very big bird hunting birds, so that fast speed is going to help her extremely when trying to catch up to other birds. Now oftentimes what they'll do when they go in this dive is at the very last second they'll open their wings to slow down just a little bit, and they'll whip out their feet. That'll actually allow them to punch their prey right out of the sky with their feet, and going such a fast speed they can actually knock their prey unconscious or even kill it with that collision. And then they can wrap their long toes around their prey and use their beak to sever their prey's spinal cord with that tomial notch, which you can probably see on Millie's a little bit better. And then they can even eat their prey while they're flying, which is the coolest form of fast food ever, right? Now Millie's given us a good show of her wings. You can see she's a very striped underbelly, and right under her wings she's got lots of stripes and spots and barring, and that's a really good way also to tell you're looking at a peregrine. They have lots and lots of that striping underneath. She's a beautiful dark kind of black gray color on her back and some beautiful stripes on her tail. She's absolutely a gorgeous bird. Now peregrines, of course, are definitely very fast birds, so they have some of those main falcon characteristics. You can see her toes are thinner and even perhaps a little bit longer than Lily's toes, and so that's going to be very helpful for grabbing onto other birds and get a good grasp. Now they will eat other animals as well, but they're definitely built for catching up to other birds. These birds will often nest on cliff sides as well. And back in the 40s, we started using an insecticide called DDT. And they found that DDT actually stops birds from absorbing calcium. And for birds especially, the calcium is important for them as they're growing their eggshells in their body. And they go to lay these eggs, and they're exceptionally soft. So when the birds lay on the eggs, they actually crush their eggs with their own body weight. So you might wonder why falcons are ingesting pesticide if they're mostly eating other birds. But of course, songbirds and other types of animals are going to be eating insects that have eaten the crops with the pesticide on it, and just going up through the food chain, it'll allow these predators to get high levels of this insecticide in their bodies, which is going to cause unseen issues. But luckily, people discovered that DDT was causing the loss of peregrine falcons, Swainson's hawks, bald eagles, amongst many other bird species. And so DDT is now banned in the United States, and thanks to breed and release programs and the banning of DDT, peregrine falcons are now taken off the endangered species list in 2013. So we're really lucky to see a huge increase of this bird species in the wild, and we're so happy to see them back because they're very important for controlling our wild bird populations. Now this bird here is very interested in a snack, which I will have to give her later. I already gave her a snack today, but she definitely wants a little bit more. We got Millie, actually, we found her, she was found by the interstate, and so we believe she was hit by a car. And what happened is her wing actually never fully healed and never grew back a lot of her secondary and primary feathers, which are those really long feathers on the inside of her wing right here, which you might see if she opens up her wings for you guys. And so unfortunately that's going to hinder a lot of the amazing flight that she will need in order to catch up to her prey. She is a pretty stunning bird. There are of course a few other color morphs of peregrine falcons as well. She's one of the more brown morphs. There's some lighter gray and some slightly whiter color morphs of these birds as well. And we are lucky enough to have peregrine falcons in Montana. They will often migrate down south. They'll even cross across the United States all the way to Florida. So they do have a pretty long migration, but they live in Montana almost year-round. And if you have any questions about this beautiful bird, please let us know in the comments below. Alright everybody, here is our last falcon species of today. This here is Holmes, and he is the smallest species of falcon that we have here in North America. He's called an American kestrel. And we have 4 American kestrel raptor ambassadors. And so we have Holmes, and we also have Watson. Oh, he gives a good show of his very handsome wings. You can see that he is, in fact, a male. Most raptors do not have color sexual dimorphism, so it is very hard to tell difference between female and male raptors. Typically, the only difference that you can see on them is that the females are larger than the males. But American kestrels have very beautiful different colorations. Males, like Holmes here, have a polka dot belly. You see his little polka dots. And they have these beautiful blue-gray wings with a nice brown tail with that black bar at the bottom. The females have brown striping on their chests, and then they don't have that blue-gray color on their wings. Now the boys obviously want to be a little flashy so they can show off to the ladies and hopefully get a good mate. And then the females are going to be a little more striped, a little less vibrant, so that they can blend into their nests when they're incubating the eggs and taking care of the babies. So their camouflage is going to be very important to them. Oh, you are so handsome, sir. Now you can see that Holmes over here has very impressive malar stripes. We've talked about them a little bit with Lily and Millie earlier, but the kestrels especially have very striking malar stripes, and those are those stripes that are underneath their eyes. A good thing to think of when you're thinking of those stripes is football players or baseball players when they put the black under their eyes. Not only is it a little intimidating to maybe the other team, but also those black lines are going to help absorb sunlight. Oh, very nice rouse. They're going to absorb sunlight and help hopefully keep that light out of their eyes. You can see that Holmes does not have a very large orbital ridge over his eye to protect him from sunlight. Now that little thing he did right there where he shook out all his feathers, it's called a rouse, and that's typically what birds will do when they're extremely comfortable, so he's very comfy out here. Also, that helps them to get dirt and dust out of their feathers by shaking all their feathers out, and helps them readjust them so that they're laying flat across his body. Now you can get a really good look at that beautiful spotted chest. Now, being so small, he's definitely prey for other predators. So kestrels are cavity nesters. And a lot of you might be thinking cavity like a hole in your tooth. Obviously, not nesting in your teeth, but they do nest in holes, but often in trees, maybe old woodpecker homes, squirrel homes, or a rotten tree that has some holes in it. Unfortunately, a lot of their nests are cut down. But a good way to help out kestrels is to build a kestrel nest box, and you can put it up on a post in your yard. And I would give it a couple of years, let the kestrels check it out, make sure it's a good space for them to raise their young, and then you might have some kestrel babies being raised in your backyard, which would be pretty cool. You'll also have an excellent pest control neighbor if you have some nesting in your nest box, because they do eat quite a few insects and rodents and other birds during their breeding season. Now, these birds you'll often find near open fields. They're going to be hunting over grassy areas looking for their prey, and they'll often do something called kiting, where they fly down low over the grass and they'll hover in place doing little quick flaps, and that'll allow them to hang in the air like a kite would and find their prey and swoop down really fast to grab it, since they don't typically dive from very high heights like some of the other falcon species do. They are excellent to have around for getting insects and other rodents as well. And they definitely have amazing eyesight. You can see that Holmes is very fixated on the magpie that made a very loud sound behind me. Sometimes they are so focused in on something. You can see his head stays still. Oh, there we go, very focused, even if his body is moving. And a lot of birds will actually do this, but the kestrels are very good at displaying this. So that will help him once he finds his prey. Let's say he gets blown around a little bit in the wind, then he will be able to stay focused on it, even if his body is moving. Oh, very good job. Now, these birds are found here in Montana, and we're pretty lucky to have them. Sometimes they can be found year-round in different areas with low amounts of snow, but they are partial migrants, or also they'll do what's called leapfrog migration. So kestrels in Montana might fly a little bit further south and see that there is a high level of kestrel populations just south of them, and then what they'll do is they'll actually fly past that population of kestrels that are staying potentially there for the winter, and they'll leapfrog over them or past them to go even more southern. So there might be some kestrels found in Montana in the summertime, and then in the wintertime you might even find them down all the way in Texas or going down to Mexico. So they definitely have a very interesting way of migrating. But you can sometimes see these guys year-round, and it's really great to have that color sexual dimorphism when you see them. A lot of times you'll find them on telephone pole or telephone wires, or on the edge of signs on the side of the road, and if you see those little polka dots, you know you're looking at a male, and they're very surprisingly easy to see from a little ways away, and he's very alert about those other birds near him. He's definitely a smaller bird, so he could be taken by other bigger birds, so they're very alert birds. Now, when he's not looking at the camera, let's see if we can, nope, we're just gonna stare at the camera. All right, Holmes, just a little bit. Well, he wants to give you all his very, hi, his very handsome side. I don't know if you got a good look. He fixed, there we go. But he has some little spots. Oh, there we go, there we go. Yeah, he wants to keep an eye on this strange thing, this strange camera. But he has some spots on the back of his head, and they kind of look like eyes, which is pretty interesting. A lot of smaller bird species and other animal species will have those spots on the back of their eyes. Oh, there we go, there's a good view. They're called eye spots, and they help these birds, oh, scary magpie, to look like they have eyes in the back of their head. So maybe if a predator is thinking about flying down and attacking him, they might think twice when they see those eye spots. Now, Holmes is a pretty amazing raptor ambassador. We do have homes because somebody kept him as a baby, as a pet, which is illegal to do. So if you ever find a baby that's injured or looks like it's been abandoned, the best thing you can do for it is bring it into the center. And what we can do is we'll feed it with masks, and we'll use puppets, and we'll make sure not to talk while we're feeding them, and that keeps them typically from imprinting on people. When raptors imprint, a lot of times they lose their ability to hunt. They are not able to survive in the wild. They don't quite understand predators. They lose their fear of people. And sometimes they even try to mate with other people. And you can tell they're obviously very confused as to what type of animal they are. So he was confiscated as a first-year bird from the person who had him. And now he does have to live permanently in captivity. We do believe that he had a little bit of a wrist injury on his left wing too. So a lot of times it's good to bring in injured birds immediately too, because then we can get to those injuries right away and help these birds out so that we can be more likely to release them back into the wild. Now these are pretty amazing raptors. Even though they're little, they're very important to have in the environment. So anyway, if you're interested in helping them out, please let us know. And if you have any questions about Holmes or Millie or Lily, please put them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye!